Hey everyone, Nick from Nick's Crossing here, and welcome back to the Train Room, guys, for another quick review on one of my, newest pieces to the collection, but this has been on my grocery list for many, many years now. Going all the way back to when I was a kid, I've always wanted this engine, and this engine is a beast. This takes the cake as the largest locomotive in my collection with the EM1, which is the B&O Yellowstone that I have, and it's an amazing runner after a couple upgrades, so here we go, guys. Let's get into this. All aboard. Alrighty, guys, so the beast that I've been talking about is this right here in my hands. This is the C&O Allegheny, number 1601, and this is the 2666. So I call it the devil's engine, the 2666 steam locomotive, and these are just crazy engines, and this says it's a Lima Works right here. And guys, this has been on my list for so many years now. Not exactly this model. I actually wanted to get the MTH one, but at the recent York show, I picked this up over at Gryzboski's and got a heck of a deal on this engine. So I'm going to set this down. This thing weighs like, just one-handing it right now, probably a good 15 to 20 pounds. Alrighty, guys, so growing up in the Baltimore area, I was able to see a C&O Allegheny almost twice a year because they have one at the B&O Railroad Museum. That's sort of where I fell in love with this giant locomotive because it is just such a modern marvel and just engineering feat for a 2666 locomotive to just be created. Like, you look at this engine, like, how did they build this thing? How did they get all these parts in there? It's like the amount of steel and just energy to move the parts and just move the engine had to be tremendous. So as a kid, I was just like looking at this engine like, this is probably my favorite articulating engine ever, next to the Malays. I have a love for Malays as well because of this place right here. Got theirs running, and I remember climbing in the cab of 1309 as a kid, almost falling through the floor because it was so rusted out. And this engine, number 1604, so my 1601 sister, is at the B&O Railroad Museum, and you can walk in the very safe cab. There's a automated button, so it tells you a story about the engine, and also you can sit behind the controls and move whatever, respectfully, of course, because it is getting pretty old. And a lot of people have, unfortunately, destroyed some of the stuff in that cab over the years. But that's sort of where I fell in love with the Alleghenies. And I got this really cool picture of me sitting in the cab. So I definitely remember that day. It's set up here in stone. And just, like I said, just the amount of ingenuity and everything that Lima had to do to get this thing run is just absolutely amazing. So guys, looking at my research, it's kind of weird because they call this the H8 class. So I think of anything with an H in front of it, like H9, H8, I think of a 280 steam engine. But these were built by Lima Works, so totally different than the other guys. And these were supposed to be Lima's strongest engines that they've ever made. These are meant to be powerhouses to compete with the Class A's. That was Norfolk Western's big old articulating steam locomotives. And these were built to haul coal trains through the mountains of Virginia and West Virginia, which are very treacherous grades. Lots of sweeping curves and such. And these were built in two different batches. So there's basically one batch from 1941 to 44, and that are the engines 1600 through 1644. And then the second batch was built 1948 to 1949, it's saying, and that's saying 1645 through 1659. Now the crazy thing is, our engine is in the first batch, so probably, let's just call it 1941. During that time, there was a big event in our history in this country going on. We were in World War II. So 41 to 45, end of 45 into 46, we're going to call that World War II. And at the time, a lot of other railroads were told you can't build new engines. And I'm wondering how they were able to build these during the war production efforts of World War II. So I don't know if they scrapped other engines to build these. I just have no idea, because I know the Reading T1s at the time were told you could modify engines, you just couldn't build anything from scratch. So that makes me wonder where they were able to build these and how they could build these at the time. But the other interesting thing is these are called the H8 class. Now, I think of anything H series, I think of a 280, but this is not a 280, and the nickname they gave them were the Alleghenies. So that's why you guys have been hearing me call them the Allegheny, not the H8. And anything, like I said, anything H series I think of, especially this railroad right here, Western Maryland's classic, very famous, powerful 280s. The other crazy stat that I found out is that their max speed that they tested was 70 miles per hour. So working on the railroad, guys, I will tell you, a train going 80 to 90 miles per hour is very impressive. I've seen trains go up to 135 miles per hour, which is scary and impressive. And I can't imagine something with this much mass going 70 miles an hour. That is just crazy. I've seen very, very long coal trains going from the Perryville area, where the Y is at, to Harrisburg, going about 60 miles per hour, and that is scary and impressive. But this going faster or just as fast as that is just insane. In my humble railroad opinion, that is just absolutely crazy. Before we get into reviewing this engine, I'd like to talk about the tooling and some of the electronics in this engine. This tooling allegedly is from 1999. Now, for that time, this is very, very sophisticated, but there are a couple things I've noticed. So the whistle, you can sort of hear the refresh rate of the whistle of the sound clip where it starts repeating back, because the whistle on this is like a Hooter style whistle. Now, coming from a sound engineering background and music background, I can hear that stuff. And I know some of the newer tooling, like the Strasburg 90s and such, I can also hear that. So where the whistle repeats from the end of the sound clip to kind of get to that looping sound, this definitely, I can hear it plain as day. But I'm going to keep the sounds because I actually do like the sounds of this engine. I think it runs great. And there's a couple other things I had to do, like replacing this board right here. Now, this is the driver board for the motors. And what I did, guys, was I went on to Electric Railroad's website and picked up the Cruise Commander M and threw that in here yesterday. Now, I'll be honest with you guys. If I don't know something, I'm not going to lie to you guys and pretend I'm the expert. I'll be honest with you. I had no idea how to install a Cruise Commander M. I got my buddy Tom from Tom's Trains and got him to help me out with this. And we got it running great. I was going to do a video on the Cruise Commander M upgrade, but I thought it wouldn't be fair to you guys because I had no idea what I was doing. And I'll do the next one that I convert over. So this is the old driver board right here. It works, but at the time of purchasing this engine, this did not come with cruise control at all. So it ran pretty rough. It would stall out on my curves, and I'm using 072, and it would just totally stall out. You'd hear the Pitman motor in the side start to basically stall out, and you hear that electric sound in there. You guys don't want to hear that. It's the brushes burning up. So yeah, I swapped her out for the Cruise Commander M. Now this thing runs like a totally different locomotive. So if you have an older TMCC engine that does not have Cruise or Odyssey in it, this also goes for K-Line, make sure you change out this board. Get yourself a Cruise Commander M from Electric Railroad by Third Rail. Look up their website. I'll post the website in the description and get that board in there. It's a totally different experience, and it's so much more enjoyable now that this thing can cruise and not have to worry about it breaking down or stalling on my layout. All right, let's start with the tender. So this thing is a beast, and this actually has a great sounding speaker. I might change it out for one of the Fat Boy speakers or something equivalent to it on Amazon. I've got a ton of basically it comes with a tweeter and a sub speaker, so you get a nice even sound. But this sounds and looks great. So a couple of things about the tender. They have this rack down here that hangs down. It's pretty cool. Lots of detail in the trucks. They're all cast trucks. They're not individually sprung. You can see all the journal boxes on there. The paint is in great shape. This was a used locomotive from a collector that passed away, and they sold their collection through Gryzboski's. So as you can see, our coal load is this just molded plastic. Now, I'd love to put a real coal load on this locomotive, but I have noticed that it kind of inhibits the radio signal of some of these locomotives. Now, the good thing is my radio antenna are the giant handrails on the sides of our locomotive, but I have noticed putting a coal load right here sort of messes with the radio signal. So I'm probably going to leave it as this right here, maybe paint the coal or something like that. We'll see. But they did a great job with that. Also, our tender is die cast. This thing weighs a ton. The hatches back here do not open. They're all dummy hatches. But on some of the newer ones, they put all of the legacy controls inside of these hatches here so you're not digging through. And then also they put legacy controls up on the tops of the locomotive itself, so you're not lifting it up to do the run and program switch. Now next to that we have our cab. This has a firebox glow effect inside the firebox there. We also have a fireman and engineer on the other side. You can see some of the details. We have a feed water pump here. These, I'd love someone to point out what these are for. So on 1309, notice that there are holes in the sheeting next to the firebox. And when I was a kid, I noticed it had like a blower system. So I'm not sure if that's for like a stoker or some type of super stoker. So if someone could point that out in comments, I'd love to know why and the C&O, I noticed the C&O did this. They had these weird blower devices on the sides of the firebox. So I thought that was really interesting. A couple other things, guys, with the functionality. We have a wireless IR tether, which makes it really easy just to hook up and run the train. And that's a newer technology that came out back in the 90s. So I thought that was a really cool touch with this locomotive. Our roof hatch also does not open, it's molded in. But I noticed on a lot of newer Lionel engines, they're doing the same exact thing. So that's nothing special. Also, there's no plate between our tender and locomotive. So I might actually build one in the future. So we have a nice gap closing plate and then put a guy shoveling coal. Even though these locomotives did have stokers, and at the B&O Museum, you can actually look up in the tender right about here, and there's a piece of glass or plexiglass, and you can see the actual stoker screw. All right, you can see on the side it says H8 class, and here comes the best part, guys. Just the smooth functionality of our locomotive, and while it passes by, you can see all the separately applied details and such, and how awesome this engine looks. And the coolest thing up front, you have the Lima Works plate and our whistle right here. We also have a dual smokestack with one single smoke unit, and it's not the best smoker. That is one thing I'd love to upgrade in here prior to weathering. Just get it all smoking nice and looking sweet. Now up front, we have lots of really cool detail, all this piping and such, and this whole front truck articulates. So that's one thing about Lionel. The front truck articulates, you can see it moving back and forth. And right in here is a drive shaft with a plastic coupler, so you have to watch out for that. And then back here, this truck assembly is built into the frame. So the only truck that articulates truly is our front truck right there. And the frame sort of hovers over the tooling like this. So that's one thing to look out for. And taking this truck off, I said lots of four-letter words that I will not be sharing on YouTube, putting this truck back together after putting in the Cruise Commander M board. So that was a lot of fun. Now, another thing I noticed with these articulating locomotives, there is this exhaust pipe underneath. It's kind of hard to see. Point it out right here. And you guys, if you have owned these in the past, this tube right here, there's a spring right here. This can get caught up on stuff if it hangs too low. So you want to make sure that this is up nice and high so it does not get caught up under your tooling. And also, the minimum curve radius for this, I believe someone told me it was 54. I wouldn't run this on anything less than 72, to be honest with you guys, because it is just such a massive tooling and it needs room to breathe. Now up front, I'll show you guys a better view, but this is the coolest thing I love about these engines, the dual air pumps up front. All right, so the front of this locomotive also has the road name C&O for Progress, 1601, the awesome low headlight. I love that about the C&O stuff. Just think it's so cool. We also have a swivel bell that is just there to swivel on its own. Then we have the number boards up top. Then also these little gem marker lights. That is another thing I'd love to replace with LEDs. So this thing really, really brightens up. You can see the markers up front. Now, the only big paint blemish on here is the front right here. It's missing a little bit of the white pinstriping, and that it is what it is. But I'm going to weather it. It's going to be perfectly fine. All right, guys, I got it fired up here, and I was going to mention too, thank God this has a Pitman motor, not a Pullmore motor, so I can upgrade this with cruise control and run it, for hours on end up here in the train room. So here's some of the cool sounds this engine offers. And this is for $19.99, basically rail sounds. Cab chatter, then here's dispatcher sounds. Then we also have the blow-off steam. And then this engine's also very, very loud. So let's play the whistle here. And it's got a nice echo to it, and you guys can sort of hear that refresh rate of the sounds. So I absolutely love that whistle. I don't want to change a thing with this model. And then here's the bell. So you get a nice swinging bell sound. As you can hear, the bell also rings out. And then the chuffing is a little bit different. It's not the modern articulating chuffs. You're going to hear just basically the first cylinders up front. Now, what I'd love to do in the future is put in a chuff generator so we get all 8 chuffs for the high pressure steam. So here is reverse. Let's go forward here. guys, so what do you think of the new giant Allegheny steam engine? I think she's a great piece, and also, man, she smoked up this whole room. I was not expecting that. So throughout running this all week long, I noticed that the smoke unit was sort of weak. It's got that early Lionel smoke unit in there. It says it has Dynachuff or whatever. So, like, yeah, it can't be that powerful. But guess what, guys? This thing smoked out the whole room. You can see the haze up here. It's totally hazed out behind me and in front of me. I was actually kind of nervous that she would set off the fire alarm. And honestly, there's only 2 engines in my entire collection that have had the privilege to set off the fire alarm up here. That is my K-Line K4 1361 that burned through a smoke wick when I first restored her. Then also my other K-Line, Streamline steam engine that's down here. And that also set off the smoke alarm. So man, this engine was such a great smoker. And my buddy Tom from Tom's Trains and Accessories explained to me that the more throttle you give the locomotive, the more smoke it will produce. So that must be why it's called Dynachuff. It's for dynamic chuffing. Instead of synchronized chuff, it just has a fan smoke unit that runs 100% of the time, but it totally smoked out this room. Now, a couple future plans for this locomotive. I would love to put in a chuff generator so we get all 8 chuffs or whatever at a time, then also synchronize it with the smoke, which I can easily do up here with some magnet switches and a power board, and then I can also control the smoke, turning it on and off using 8 and 9 on my remote. So that is one thing I'd love to have modded for this locomotive. Then after that, I'm pretty much done. Maybe some LEDs for the rear and the headlight and the marker lights. Upgrade them with green EVA model marker LEDs that I use. But anyways, guys, hopefully you enjoyed this quick review of my newly acquired 1601 C&O Allegheny. It'd be so cool to actually see this engine in person at the Henry Ford Museum and also just get some pictures of that beautiful locomotive. But anyways, guys, if you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe. Leave a like below. It really helps out. And also leave a comment. I do read all the comments, guys. I get hundreds of comments every week. Do my best to read through everything, and I mostly see all of them. So it really does mean a lot, and I do enjoy hearing from you guys out there in the YouTube sphere. But anyways, everyone, hopefully you enjoyed this video. Happy railroading. We'll see you next time. See you guys.